Hello, I'm Edward October. Over the years, I've narrated more ghost stories, horror shows, and creepypastas than I can count. And yet, the crimes discussed on our true crime podcast managed to scare the shit out of me. This program is not suitable for children or the faint of heart. If you are such a person, go ahead and switch off this podcast. Listen to something else. Are you still with us? Well, we've warned you.
Hi, Jen.
Hey, Kim, how you doing?
I'm pretty darned okay. How about yourself?
Doing well.
Yeah?
Doing well. It's, school's in session. We're a couple weeks out of going to Scotland to see our executive producer, Nico, get married to his beloved, Jesse.
Aww.
So it's going to be fun.
It's going to be so fun. I'm so excited.
I know. So we are recording this early. So if we make references to anything, just know that that's the end of July and not necessarily the end of August. So
just pretend like we do.
Just pretend. Yeah.
It's best that way. I have a case for us.
Oh, good. I'd be surprised if you didn't. But
I know. That would
let's
be
go.
A little awkward. Here we go.
Let's hear it.
It's May 24th, 2000, and we are going to Tuscarawas County in Ohio, to a town named New Philadelphia. It is exactly what you think of when you say small town America, with lots of farmland and friendly people. Elizabeth Reiser, who goes by Liz, is a 17-year-old high school student who's looking forward to graduating and finding out all that life has to hold for her. Her good friend, 18-year-old Brandi Hicks, asked Liz to come over and stay the night with her. On this day, Brandi, who was in the school choir, was going to the choir banquet and wanted Liz to go with her. Now, even though it's a school night, her mother relented and said yes. After all, they're about to be out of high school. That evening, the two friends visited a video store in New Philadelphia after the choir banquet to rent some movies for the night. When they left the store and started to get into the car, a man approached them. The man claimed that he had no way of getting home, and he asked the girls for a ride, telling them, I live nearby. I don't live far. The girls hesitated and told them that they really needed to get home. The man then offered them $20 as an incentive. The girls really didn't want to give the stranger a ride, but he urged them to do so, and they agreed. They were young and naive and always looked for the best in people. After all, he only needed to go across town, and then they could go back and watch the movies that they had just rented. Neither Brandi nor Liz would ever get to watch that movie. Once inside the car, the man told the girls that his name was Mark, and he was in school too, just like them, but college, not high school. He mentioned that he had been struggling lately, but he was trying to get better. Suddenly, Mark told the girls to pull the car over to the side, pull it over now. They're obviously kind of like, what's going on? But they did. When they pulled over, Mark jumped out of the car and he said he'll be right back. Don't leave, I'll be right back. At this time, the girls debated about leaving and starting to drive, but he was already back inside the vehicle before they actually could get away. The three continued driving on the road, but the girls were now finally starting to realize that it was not just across town. They asked him how much farther. He told them they're almost there. At one point, both of the women definitely sensed something was off. At this point, Liz mentioned to Brandi that it's getting late, and if they really wanted to watch those movies, they needed to get home. Brandi then said, hey, I think we're just going to let you out here. The stranger then told him, yeah? What do you say if I tell you I have a gun? As the man held a gun to Brandi's head, he demanded that they keep driving. He told Brandi to turn down a deserted road, and then he shouted to stop. He then forced the girls outside of the car and made them remove their shoelaces from their shoes. The man forced Liz to tie Brandi's arms to the steering wheel, leaving her trapped. The man then took Liz away in the dark woods. Brandi could do nothing but sit and wait, dreading what she thought was coming. After walking for a short while, the man instructed Liz to kneel on the ground. Approaching the 17-year-old from behind, the man took a knife and slashed Liz's throat. He then continued to stab her in the neck, face, and back. Liz was left out there alone to bleed out and die. The attack was so vicious that the knife actually broke off during the attack. A few minutes later, the man came back to the car. Brandi immediately knew it was not good since he came back alone. The killer then took Brandi into the woods, just like he did with Liz. When Brandi reached Liz's body, what she had feared was now confirmed as she stared at her friend's lifeless body. At this point, the murderer put socks over his hands to avoid leaving fingerprints in the car. He then drove Brandi to a railroad car perched high above the river in New Philadelphia. The man told her that she would have to do what he said if she wanted to live. Once they reached the area, he told her to sit down. He started talking to her, inquiring about college, her future, and, what she wanted to do as a career, making some small talk. As abruptly as the conversation started, it ended. Here, Brandi would be sexually assaulted and strangled with her own shoelaces. When the strangling proved not to be working, the maniac attempted to break Brandi's neck 3 separate times. Finally, Brandi passed out and lost consciousness. When Brandi finally came to, she had a brilliant idea, an idea that would save her life. Brandi would play dead. She would not move, not breathe, not flinch. Finally, the man stopped trying to strangle her. He believed he was successful, and so he tossed her body off the bridge. However, as she fell, her foot got caught between 2 wooden boards on the track, leaving Brandi to hang upside down. Can you imagine? Now, remember, she's awake, but she's pretending to be dead. So all of this has to be...
She can't move a muscle.
Yes,
yeah,
nothing.
She's got to be quiet.
The killer started wrestling with her shoe, trying to free her, and soon Brandi was in free fall, landing in the water. Brandi remained still as she floated to the surface as if she were dead. She could hear the man on the bridge, and she knew that she had to keep still to allow him to believe he had killed her. Finally, the stranger vanished into the night. Moments later, Brandi pulled herself up out of the water, still fearing the man may be lurking. She knew she needed to escape the scene as fast as possible. After struggling to reach the road, Brandi managed to flag down a car, and it stopped. The person in the car just happened to be an off-duty police officer. Brandi was taken to the hospital to be treated for her injuries as officers tried to put together exactly what happened on this terrifying night. Police sent officers to the scene where Brandi said they would find Liz. After finding Liz, her mother and father had to be told. The search is now underway for the man who killed Liz Reiser and the attempted murder of Brandi Hicks. Brandi was able to give police a description of the man, who called himself Mark. The sketch is handed out to the media, and the word begins to spread. Only hours later, a woman named Sheila comes into the police station with a shocking statement. Sheila tells officers that she believed her son was involved in a murder, and that she gained this information from her brother-in-law, Jeff. Sheila tells officers that she has a son, and he had called her crying on the phone. He told her that he had done something so horrendous that no one will ever forgive him. His name is not Mark, it's Matthew Vega. And his mother just told police that she is positive he murdered Liz and Brandi. Sheila tells officers that Matthew was staying at the Lake Park campground outside of New Philadelphia. Before going to arrest Matthew, they need to talk to Jeff. So they go and interview Jeff, who does confirm everything that Sheila says. He tells them that 27-year-old Matthew arrived at his house, Jeff's house, the previous night, and that Matthew told Jeff he had to show him something. Matthew then took Jeff to the field where he had brutally murdered Liz. Well, that's all they need. Now they can go arrest Matthew Vega. And boy, did they learn that he had a long list of crimes on his rap sheet. Police haul Matthew into the police station for a little chat, and in custody, he admits pretty easily and pretty upfront that he did kill Liz and that he attacked Brandi. Originally, he thought she was dead, remember? But they, of course, had the pleasure to say, nope, you were not successful, buddy. Brandi, along with her own family and Elizabeth's family, confronted Matthew in court. Brandi actually came face to face with this man who ruined her life and had taken away her best friend. The trial judge imposed the maximum sentence of 96.5 years imprisonment on an 11-count conviction. Matthew Vega remains incarcerated at the Mansfield Correctional Institute in Ohio, with no eligibility for parole until 2096. Thank goodness. The criminal is now behind bars and justice is served, but the story's not over yet. Did you know that an estimated 1 out of 3 adults suffer from insomnia?
I do. And I'm one of them.
And guess what? I'm one of them too.
I know.
I hated to use the over-the-counter drugs, not because they didn't work, but because some of them can lead to having other issues when you use them long term. Who needs that?
Not me.
So I'm thrilled to have found Sleep Cream. Sleep Cream is a safe and natural product, and honestly, in my opinion, one of the best sleep aids on the market. There's no pill to take. You just rub the cream into your neck or forearms or even bottoms of your feet. And within 15 minutes, you are relaxed and off to dreamland.
Sleep Cream uses all natural CBD, and there's no THC in it whatsoever. I mean, it's not going to cause a high, and it's not going to trigger a failed drug test. Sleep Cream's CBD reacts to the skin's nerve receptors rather than going into the bloodstream, and it helps your body do what it needs to do, which is rest. If you think it's too good to be true, just try it for yourself. You've got nothing to lose, well, except for an amazing night's rest. So try it for a couple of nights and see how it works for you. And if you don't experience a better sleep, Sleep Cream will refund your purchase, and you don't even have to return anything.
Order your bottle at sleepcream.com. That's Sleep Cream, CREME.com, and use code OTC podcast, all one word, at checkout to save $20 on your first order. Go and order a bottle at sleepcream, CREME.com. Use code OTC podcast, all one word, at checkout to save $20 on your first order. That's sleepcream.com. We've talked on the show often about how parents or loved ones of somebody that's brutally murdered, how can they ever move on with their life?
How hard it is to move on, yeah.
Yes. The whole part of doing the story, which it's incredible, and I love that Brandi made it through. She's a survivor, but what really got to me was how Liz's family handled this. So this is a little tidbit about what I want to share and how the case isn't over. Becky, who is Liz's mom, recorded her thoughts in a blog post entitled My Tears, and I'll include the link at the bottom in the show notes. She wrote this on Sunday, May 4th, 2008. And this is how it goes, and this is all her words. Frustration with justice? Jeff, that's, by the way, Becky's husband and Liz's dad. Jeff has asked me to write this as an account of our own experience the last 2.5 years. When the sentencing of Matthew Veka was over in July of 2000, we asked if we, Jeff and I, could have a private word with the man that murdered our daughter, Liz. We were ushered out the door to the side of the courtroom in a very small hall. There, amidst several deputies, a lawyer, Matthew, and Jeff and I, we took a moment to speak with the man that had forever changed our lives. We had a few questions for him that only he could answer. And there, in that small hallway, he apologized to us. He also asked Jeff to come and visit him in prison. We were never quite sure why he asked Jeff to visit, but Jeff said he would. Therein is the problem. In the fall of 2005, Jeff felt that he needed to keep his promise to Matthew, so he contacted the proper officials to make this happen. After several phone calls, we were contacted by prison officials that we would need to have a meeting to discuss the reasons for the requested meeting. The meeting was scheduled, and a couple weeks later, we met with facilitators from the victim services at the prison. We met in October of 2005, and we were told that we would get the ball rolling. Well, it is now May of 2008, and the meeting has not happened yet. Jeff received a few phone calls in between, but nothing else until last week. On Thursday, he met with the same 2 facilitators from the prison. They informed him that they had more meetings with other people, meetings with Matthew, meetings with other family members, meetings to have more meetings, all this to arrange for Jeff to keep his promise. There is really no reason for Jeff and I to go visit Matthew other than keeping a promise he made almost 8 years ago. So with that said, Jeff is now going to meet with Matthew sometime. He was informed there would be 2 facilitators, their boss, Matthew, a family member of his, Jeff and I, and who knows who else, will be asked to be present at this visit. Frustrating? You bet. Why? Who knows? It's just another waste of our tax dollars to have a meeting after meeting, to have who knows how many people present, to be able to make sure that when we visit Matthew, that he, meaning Matthew, won't have any problems. We aren't going to cause him problems. We have no desire to do that. We aren't the ones that requested this meeting. It was Matthew. We are only keeping a promise. It won't change the situation. It certainly would not bring Liz back. It won't change Matthew's mind about what he did. That is done. We forgave Matthew on May 24th, 2000, and have not changed our minds. The thing that is most frustrating is how some of the people involved in this visit are treating Jeff like he is the perpetrator, and Matthew is the victim. Jeff has no desire to see Matthew suffer or to cause any problems for him. He only wants to keep a promise. He knows that Matthew is in prison for life, wants no chance for parole. He doesn't want to see Matthew be raped or killed by another inmate. Matter of fact, Jeff asked Matthew not to take his own life after he, Matthew, stood in that hallway and cried and said he shouldn't live. Why is our justice system doing this? What is wrong with Jeff and Matthew and maybe one other person meeting for 10 minutes and then getting on with life? Why are all of the unnecessary meetings, all of the involvement of other people needed? We have not changed our minds. We have not revoked our forgiveness. We have not done anything other than to attempt to keep our promise. Yes, we're frustrated and a little agitated. Okay, maybe a lot agitated. Why does this have to be such a huge ordeal? Maybe one of you readers can explain this. Maybe you can help us understand the justice system of this state and how a murderer is defended and worried about his welfare and protected from us when all we want is to wish him no ill. We didn't seek the death penalty, which would have been our decision to pursue because of the charges of murder and abuse of a corpse. Actually, the decision was left up to the county prosecutor. We believe that decisions like this are to be made by the elected officials, Romans 13. We would never try to take justice into our own hands. Yes, we believe that the Bible is clear when it says an eye for an eye, Exodus 12:23-24. The death penalty was not sought because the prosecutor did not want this to drag on for years, appeal after appeal. She wanted it to be over. Matthew will have to answer to God for his sins, just as we all do. We have prayed for this man's soul from the moment we knew what had happened. We have never hidden anything from the public in reference to this case. We've all been honest and truthful and thought we've been upstanding citizens. Are all good Americans treated with disdain? I am thankful that we live in a free nation, except the cost to do the honest thing seems rather expensive to me. We are hurt and feel that our justice system should perhaps look at things a bit differently than they do. Please pray for us as we continue on this roller coaster. We still want to take the high road in this situation, but for some reason, the road is being blocked. Now, Liz's mother, Becky, and her husband, Jeff, and their 3 sons decided to do what I can only imagine to be nearly impossible, and that was to forgive Matthew Veka for taking their daughter. Mm-hmm. The family is devoutly religious, and they credit their faith with helping them get through this. Becky has even written a book about the journey called Through My Tears, Awash in Forgiveness. And let me just end the episode from a quote from Becky regarding this journey. Becky said, quote, "I had a choice. I could agree or disagree, and I chose forgiveness because it freed me from whatever I was going to have to face. It gave me peace and strength to face forward. Some people thought that we just didn't want to go through the appeals process because it takes too long. But I have to tell you, you still live it every day. 7 weeks after Liz died, God spoke to me and told me I needed to write a book. I wrote in my journal July 18th, 2000, and then in October of 2003, I sat down to begin writing the book, without a clue of where to start. As I sat before the computer trying to fathom the meaning of true forgiveness, it occurred to me that there was a person in my life against whom I had held bad feelings for 23 years. So instead of starting the book, I wrote a forgiveness letter." Becky went on to say, "I began to realize that forgiveness is ongoing and not something that is finished when the story is over. You have to practice it. Sometimes you have to forgive multiple times. God forgives and forgets. Humans can't do it without his help. It is like a test that you have to keep taking over and over." Becky said that after writing the letter, she sat at the computer for a full day, saying, "When I finished writing, I foolishly thought the book was done. It was so cathartic to get it on paper and begin the healing. Little did I know, this was a huge learning process for me and brought many people into my life whom I might not otherwise met or worked with." And that's the story of Liz Reiser.
Wow.
I just read that and I was like, so well-spoken and just so forgiving. And, you know, somewhere, and I didn't include it in here, I got chills just a little bit there. The father was reading the Bible and he opened it up to the book of Matthew. And then think, I want to say 8 days or 8 weeks later, I should have included this. I apologize. It's just an afterthought. When they were informed about this, he said he already knew. He knew Liz was gone and that she was not coming back and that they needed to forgive the person that took her right in that moment. Talk about strength.
Yeah.
I don't even. So they're very religious, and I think their faith, I just have to say, has helped them. They do go to churches and speak about this, and I'll put that link in the show notes because she said if you'd like us to come to your church, we would be more than happy to do so. I just think this was a remarkable story, not just because of Liz and how this one little act trickles down and affects so many people and so many things. And it's just truly, it's just unreal, all of it. And I got a little misty.
Yeah. That whole forgiveness thing, kudos to them. I need to learn how to do that because I'm not much of a forgiver.
I do really understand who does it hurt? It hurts the person that it can't forgive. I mean, that hurts them worse. Matthew, he's in prison. I looked him up. He
doesn't care.
All neck tattoos, which obviously he got in prison because he didn't have those in the mugshot. So, I mean, he's living his life in prison. I just admire the Reiser family. I think good for them. I can't imagine how this would affect somebody. And forgiveness,
devastating.
I don't know if I could.
Maybe decades down the road, possibly. But
and on her blog post, like I said, I'll put it in the show notes. I went through the comments that people read, and they were it was just interesting. So if you want to go down a rabbit hole one day,
I will send me the link, and I'd love to listen or read it. I love comment sections for the good or bad of them. Yeah.
That's the story of Liz Reiser, 17 years old. Babies, mere babies.
Babies. That's terrible.
Is there anything else we'd like to add to the show, Jen?
I really don't have anything except to let everybody know that we are still some spots on our Dark History tour of the UK. That is next year, June 13th through the 22nd.
Yes, it is.
We opened up 6 more spots. We have 1 taken. We have 1 that just emailed me last night asking about it. And then we have 2 that are seriously discussing it. So if those 3 booked, that means there's only 3 left. So if you want to go, better get your spot.
Yeah.
You want to tell everybody what it is, what we're doing?
We are taking a little vacation across the pond. We are going to Edinburgh, York, and London. We are going to do any and all things kind of dark history and a little bit of ghostly thrown in there. I think the final night we have a murder mystery dinner. That's like our send-off dinner. We just have a lot. It's going to be so fun. And we've already been chatting with some people going. There are people already. That's all I can say.
I know.
It's going to be amazing.
We're going to have so much fun. People that are going are a lot of fun. Got to have a blast. But yeah, we're going to start in Edinburgh, where we're going to go see the underground city, I think where people lived, I should say. The Royal Mile, we'll go there. Then there's a free day. Then we head to York, where we get to see all the buildings from the 1300s. That's
crazy.
Floors me.
Being in America, that we're, 225 years something?
250, I think. 250 years, somewhere
I don't do math. All I know is it's a lot less than that.
Yeah, and then London, of course, we're going to go to see the Tower of London. We're going to go to the Jack the Ripper. It's going to be a blast. I was watching something, and I might have mentioned this before, but somebody said that to Americans, 400 years is amazing. And then to Britain, 400 miles is amazing because they don't drive very far. Like America's, it's no big deal to go 400 miles.
No, in a day. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That's a morning jot.
If you have any questions about anything, you can email us at ourtruecrimepodcast@gmail.com, or you can get a hold of us through Twitter at ourtruecrimepod. Anywhere, we're everywhere. Just go ahead and
just Google us.
Send us questions. Yeah,
just Google us. Until next time, remember, lock your doors.
Keep passing by those open windows.
Bye-bye.
Love ya.
Today's episode was researched and written by me, Cam. For more information about this episode, as well as all the sources I used, please check out our show notes or the podcast website at ourtruecrimepodcast.com. Our True Crime Podcast is developed and created by hosts Jen and Cam. Original music and audio mix of all our True Crime Podcast episodes is courtesy of Nico Vertesi from We Talk of Dreams. Listener discretion is provided by Edward October from October Pod VHS. Our True Crime Podcast is executive produced by Nico Vertesi and Dick Vane. Make sure to like and subscribe to Our True Crime Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. We can be reached on Instagram and Facebook at Our True Crime Podcast or on Twitter at Our True Crime Pod. You can email us at ourtruecrimepodcast@gmail.com. If you really like the show, make sure to check out our Patreon at Our True Crime Podcast. Our True Crime Podcast is an OTC production.